You can lose it all.
Oh, mate. You lose it all. Like, you work so hard to get there.
Advanced property investors, you may have to let go of one or two, which puts you back into the intermediate category, but throw your ego out.
But have the restraint not to upgrade your PPOR when you pay it off.
Making money is one part. Keeping money is the next part.
Absolutely.
Managing money is another part.
Capital growth will get you grow your wealth, and then cash flow keeps your wealth.
We're not here to save you money. We're here to make you money.
Oh,
You've got no non-deductible debt. You are a dangerous person to the investment space, which is brilliant.
It comes down to having choices in life. Just ask someone, how on earth are you going to get out of this 30-year mortgage?
this is the Future Proof Property Podcast. Let's get into it. We are back again with two giants of the industry, Jeremy and Aaron. They love being introduced like that. They hate it.
Not really, just deep down. I'm only 5.5 foot and I'm standing next to Dawn and Aaron and they're towering over me, but I'll take I've been a giant. I'll take that one today.
Aaron and Jeremy have so much knowledge to share. That's why we're so glad to have them on here, and especially for this episode for the advanced investor out there. Who are we saying is an advanced investor? What's an advanced investor to you guys?
I'm going to say anyone with 5 or more properties really starts to get into that advanced character, advanced investor scope, because it's such a journey to get there. You've worked your backside off, and now it's an opportunity where you'll see someone who can go from 5 to 10 much quicker, much easier sometimes compared to someone from 0 to 5. So 5, you've got 5 investment properties, you've done very well. And now it's not time to slow down. It's time to change a little bit, lift the dial, increase the efficiency, and see how far you can take this.
100%, because what got you to this point won't get you to that next level. We're talking about, guys, the generational wealth piece. This is beyond you. This is life-changing for your family and generations to come. I could talk to what we've done in our own portfolio. So when we started out buying, we were buying, 400k properties in Townsville and these places, and they've done amazing. They've doubled. It was timing the market cycle right, because that's what our income allowed us to do. Now we're at the point where we've been blessed to, grow a business. It just gives us access to different types of properties where we can really accelerate that wealth journey. For example, we were looking at a property in Newtown in Geelong. So Newtown is one of the highest socioeconomic pockets in Geelong. Geelong, if you don't know, is an hour outside Melbourne, and it's about a population of 300,000 people, and it's at the bottom of its market cycle. So not only were we going to time an entry into the market with this asset. Now, this asset was $950,000. It was going to cost us $500 a week to hold. We didn't care how much it was going to cost us to hold, and I'll tell you why. 700 square meter flat block. The house across the way had done 3 townhouses on the block, and then the house next door had built a second dwelling. So we had optionality moving into the mid part of that cycle. When we're talking about advanced lending, we are talking about building a lot of capital with different strategies to move into cash flow assets. You are still the cash cow. You're still the worker bee. But we need to try and get a way to fast track you there. And you might need to sell some of the assets that you've accumulated so far to get you to that next level. What do you guys think?
I think if you got a deal like that for me, mate, I'd take it.
Sign
Newtown.
Mate, you got me excited.
It was great.
Yeah. Look, I think to start the conversation, I wanted this to come across as very polite and respectful. It's advanced, but I think so many people we meet have the potential to get there. I'm like, dude, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you become top tier? Like, why would you settle for being stuck in intermediate? That's hard mode. You break through this level and we come out to the other side and we go, man, so much better over this side. The grass is greener once you've got past 5-6 properties, right? I think where people need is a little bit of self-belief, a bit of like clarity around their strategy and the roadmap, but also to go, hey man, you've been there. Tell me it's worth it. And we're saying it's absolutely worth it. So because you do get access to these type of opportunities, you do get access to moving into commercial, for example. You do get access to moving into, a little bit more not vanilla type deals, and life is better at the top, right? So for me, I come with a real attitude going, mate, don't settle. Like if you've got 4 or 5 properties, get the hunger in the belly to go get the next 4 or 5. And I call it the double for our business. I'm like, if you come to me at 2, I'll get you another 2. So that takes it to 4, but 4 gets it to 8. At that point, you just know that you're capable of doing it. It's not like we're going to rush out overnight and go and buy another 4, but you just know the sequencing in order to get you there as well. And that's when I think you start to see the penny drop for people going, no one's really shown me this pathway or this blueprint. Everyone's just said, go and buy 6+ properties and become a top 1% or less than investor. We're saying it, but no one's showing it. And I think that's maybe a shortcoming across all our industries as well. But also it takes someone to meet us halfway, a client to go, I am going to strap myself in. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to be a good student, because if you're saying people have been there, done that, then sign me up. So I think it's partly an attitude thing, as long as also a technical thing as well.
Absolutely. And we're getting to this point as well. If you are an advanced investor, you want to try and preserve your wealth, and you're going to need a really good accountant and a really good broker to get you to that next level. What do you guys see as the most common mistakes people make once they get to that kind of 5 properties? What's the most common mistake you see?
My personal opinion is still having the mindset that they had when they were a beginner investor. So not exploring different structures, not really utilizing their professionals to the full potential. A good broker, and this is what separates good brokers from just a normal broker, is the ability for the broker to identify when they might need to go into private banking or potentially business lending. That opens doors itself. Again, not all brokers are created equal, as not all accountants and buyers agents are created equal. Policy, there's 60 odd lenders in the industry. I think when I first started investing, there was about 40. So we've had 20 new entrants that come into the market, and they've all got very different policy. And it's, you and I have spoken about this before, Aaron. You've got access to pretty much a majority of those lenders.
Yeah.
But brokers will only look at 4. They'll just cherry pick 4, and that will be their
depth and breadth of experience, right? You got to be cutting across so many. I mean, our lender usage, and I know beating chest, 28 banks I used in the last 12 months. And I can literally show anyone in our CRM and go, we have used 28 banks. When the industry average is 4 or 5 lenders.
It's lazy, man. It's lazy.
Man, like I say, when they took top broker rankings out there, I'm like, now show me their lender usage. Because you could be writing a bucket load of loans with 4 banks. That's not enough spread. One, but you're also not cutting across like enough, like that's challenging you. Commercial, development, self-managed super fund.
Goes back to our Big Short, the
Oh,
I just want to get on the loan. I'm a diamond broker with CVA, and I'm a flame broker with St. George.
I've got all my watches. I'm ready for action.
Hold up. Are we just looking at one bank, or are we cost conscious about interest rates? What are we missing? What doors are not being opened up by looking at?
You got to think, once you get to 5+, mate, you're dealing with banks you probably never heard of. So there's an education component going, mate, I know you've never heard of this non-bank lender before, but who cares? The risk is on them. They're lending their money to you. Don't worry about it if you've never heard of them. The pay-to-play model is the rate slightly higher, but you're not buying loans, you're buying homes. Yeah? And so many brokers are trying to save people money, not make people money. And so the second you can get a team around you, it's like, we're not here to save you money. We're here to make you money. When this property shoots up 10, 20, 50% over the next few years, then thank me later, because who cares what, like you bought your first property, that one that you said went to auction. What was the rate? I don't know. I bought it at 421 or whatever it was. Bought it in a 420 and I got out at 650. Who cares about the rate?
My first interest rate was with an 8 in front of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And since then, I've seen rates go down. Yes,
now you would have bought 2 of them if you knew what you did now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once you understand the way that the money supply works, the M2 money supply works, it only goes down in value as far as a currency valuation. So for me, my mindset, and again, for all advanced investors out there, is that money will depreciate. A $50,000 loan 50 years ago was a truckload of money. You were in debt up to your eyeballs. If that person 50 years later still did not pay $1 off that loan, still 50 grand, we would turn around and say, wow, they got pretty much no debt. but they haven't paid $1 off in 50 years. And it's not necessarily anything else other than saying that the currency is devaluing. So the most advanced investors know they need to have money in the markets. Again, whether that's property, and I love property for that because it's tangible, or other alternative investments. But once you understand fractional lending and money devaluing on a daily basis, and mind you, it's not a secret. The Reserve Bank is out there to tell you that we want the economy to inflate by 2 to 3%. That means every roughly, mathematicians correct me on this in the comments, but every 21, 22 years, the economy is going to be doubling. That means your loan is halving effectively from the RBA's comments every 22 years. Now, we all know property's been doubling a lot faster than that, and real inflation is a lot more than 2 to 3%. That's what advanced investors have in the back of their mind. And when you know that, when that light bulb turns on or that penny drops on the floor, that's when you start to go really hard and heavy with your portfolio.
Absolutely. And we always say, what is this going to make you, not what it's going to cost you. We've taken people to beginner investors to advanced investors in a short frame of time. And how we've done that is, and it's so common, we get business owners coming to us, right? And these are awesome guys and girls. They have so much money in their business bank account, but they only pay themselves 80 grand a year. And they're like, I can't borrow. And I'm like, well, no shit, Sherlock, you can't borrow. You're making yourself appear. And they're like, but I don't want to pay tax on. How often do you guys hear that?
No, I mean, this is right up your alley.
I want to save tax. I'm going to go spend money on cars to get instant asset write-off or tools and all that stuff. I advise people all the time that you got the right business structure. Your tax rate's 25 cents in a company, which means that you are paying less tax than someone earning 50,000 as a percentage working at McDonald's. So you're already above the curve straight away. Your goal is Your goal is very simple in life. You want to earn as much as you can. The right professionals around you will help save as much tax as you can, but then it opens up other doors. And one of the hot topics at the moment is company lending.
Correct.
Being able to use 75 cents in the dollar from your trading entity and putting that money into investment company A, all of a sudden you've now got 75 cents in the dollar that act as a deposit and go out and then buy property and create real wealth. And you can still minimize your tax on your wages and play around with those things, but you're using business profits to really accelerate your investment journey and wealth. And then I get the old concept from some brokers, it's really hard to get a loan in a company. And this is where you come in.
You eat it for breakfast in terms of like company borrower, right? And I think a lot of what you've said is spot on. They'll come and say, look, I've tried to minimize my tax. I'm like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Right? Unless you want to go bloody low doc and then you put a rate in front of them and they get scared. It's like, well, hang on, you haven't paid tax, so just cop the higher rate. Yeah. Is it funny or I don't know?
No.
From our perspective, it's not funny.
No, it's not funny, but it's so true. And this is what we see every day. Like, we see people with capacity to be multi-millionaires and they're so scared of tax.
Tax is a success fee, man. Like if you're paying, mate, we all agree here, the government doesn't need a raise. Kerry Packer's message, that whole tax clip, mate, absolutely put that up in lights. But mate, what am I going to do? I can't fight this system. I can just embrace it and go, man, we live in a great country. And I think that's the real flip side to these. Walk out of here. This is a phenomenal country. It's a safe country. We've got great healthcare. When you need it, it's there. So there's a cost of living, but there's also a very high standard of living. Pay your dues. The pie gets bigger. Crack on. And then, like you're saying, Jeremy's, man, you might get a seat at the table with private banking, even premier banking, business banking, and they're going to give you access to products or services that you would never have access to. 90% no LMI. That's a great one in private banking. So people go, well, I'm earning a certain level. You're probably earning it's $500,000. And typically to not paid lenders, mortgage insurance, you need to be a doctor, dentist, lawyer, accountant, for example, and a few other professions. But now, because you're earning a certain income level, they're going to go, we're going to give you 90% no LMI. Crack on. That's one great option there as well. We're going to give you access to a commercial product, business banking. And then if you're self-employed, go and use that money to go and buy a premises. How? Okay, through self-managed super fund, through another company. Jeremy, as an accountant, you'll figure out the how. But this is the what. And as soon as you can open your mind to there's bigger things out there for me. I think it unlocks some like that abundance mindset in people. They're going, oh, okay, great. I'm not playing a small game by just trying to minimize my tax, and therefore I've only going to borrow at say sub 500, 600 properties. I can now move into this upper echelon of really good assets, growth properties that then the upsides are phenomenal. Like what you said, that example in Geelong, you can only do that one when you've got the capital, but you've also got to have like the cash flow to maintain that in that potential build phase as well.
And the nuance of entering into a growth market. So when you couple all of those factors together, that's an X factor of property, as Jeremy would say himself. And back to your point, I think so many people cut off their nose to spite their face. They don't see opportunity, even with the government at the moment, with all of their trying to table this CGT discount. The amount of the 99% of the population that freak over that and don't actually understand why the government is doing it. You have to try and look beyond it. We're dealing with a government that is so far behind on delivering housing supply.
850 houses, $10 billion being spent.
Who's the easiest scapegoat that nobody likes? Property investors.
Absolutely.
It's the property investors' fault. Let me tell you, if they actually ever did cut that CGT, what you're going to see is the stock on the market compress. Your vacancy rate will plummet. Your rents will rise. And it's a scapegoat for the government.
People won't transact. I know I won't.
I won't. Why would I?
You just don't sell.
I would just keep farming out equity.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
I would create even more wealth.
You only pay the CGT at that point if you sell, but also it's going to be grandfathered. So from this point onwards, so from a certain date in the future, it'll be enacted.
What markets are going to shit themselves? Markets where it's all investors that want to get out of. You'll see them move en masse
high-rise units
out of your Darwins, your Tassies. That CGT discount comes in and they have a date on that. You watch those markets.
But the reliance on structures, and I always say to for clients, what do I do? I say, well, number one, I've learned a lot of lessons in life. I don't listen to too much of what the media says, because Bill Shorten, spoke about getting rid of franking credits and abolishing negative gearing, and Scott Morrison enjoyed almost 2 terms in government. So I think that it's a little bit of something we'll throw out there and see what the market suggests, because the reality is they need to do something. Government is spending lots of money and increasing inflation and nowhere near hitting their level of targets. So structures will come into play if they do try to change tax on properties or other taxes. Accountants have been doing this since the dawn of time. We interpret policy and legislation, and then we adapt to it. And then you will see a reliance of structures. And that could be companies where tax rates are potentially 25 or 30%, depending on active and passive tests. Trusts come more into play. You can't beat down on a lot of these structures which help us save tax, but then try to change policy that may not impact them either. So be a lot of things that will occur from it if they were to even come close to it. But my personal opinion is no. Not going to happen. They always try to touch property, and they learnt their lesson from 87 to 89, and negative gearing came back in very quickly.
But you'll see they always want to penalise, and it's so many like mum and dad investors out there, or 20-something-year-olds who are trying to get ahead because they can't afford to buy a house where they want to live now. And they're investing, and they're the ones then that are hit hardest with tax when, there's more tax on beer than there is on gas in this country.
Absolutely. And I think it's all, again, I've been told by some people in the know that it's very much smoke and mirrors. And you probably hear it this first, but one of the big things they are trying to table is tax on inheritance. There is the biggest wealth shift that's going to be happening from the boomers to the next generation over the next 10 years. And the government wants a pie of that. So smoke and mirrors, potentially CGT, and the discussion around it is just something to maybe implement something else, because that's what we do, right? We put a fire there and obviously burn down the forest on the other side.
They're distracting from something else.
It is. And it's really hard to not get engaged in this conversation. You look at this year, we go back the last 6 months even, trust lending has changed. DTI changes from APRA come out. Now we're talking about CGT. The ability is never a dull moment in our worlds, right? And we've been through it. The interest only changes 8 years ago, for example. We've had debt to income ratios. We've had forensic checks around bank statements for some time. It comes and goes. The first home buyer annual tax. The annual tax instead of the stamp duty up front was an annual going. They scrapped that, for example. So I think for us, we've probably been around the traps enough to go when new players come in, we're like, this is just a phase. It'll pass. Things will get reverted, for example. Once they know they've played around and it's like they've burnt people. That's the beauty of having a few seasons under our belt to be around and just go, mate, just stay the course. Because if someone's not going to buy for CGT, you're never serious anyway.
No, you shouldn't be investing at all.
If you're tapping out before even buying and having a capital gains to even consider, you weren't that serious. So it pushes, even when rates go up and it pushes some people out, I'm like, you just were looking for a reason to not invest or buy. So I think there's a part of the market that will look for reasons to not do it. Whereas the people that are tuning in, that are listening, that are trying to educate themselves, they're looking for reasons to be better, to get better. And now what we're trying to say is we're going to try and fill in those knowledge gaps to go, okay, we've covered off how to start. We've covered off how to grow. Now this is like how to get into that thrive mode of building a really good, high quality portfolio that's going to give you choice to pay down your mortgage, choice to set up intergenerational wealth for your kids, choice to get into retirement and have a net passive or have a portfolio that you can then sell down and got the cash to get you through retirement, for example. I think when you boil it down, it comes down to having choices in life. And the second that you can do that, man, you're rich beyond measure.
Absolutely.
The fact that we live in this country, one, you are probably in the top couple of percentage points in the world with meals, water, cost of living, standard of living, for example. That's why I say to people, why wouldn't you grab this opportunity to build the best portfolio you possibly can when you have so much at your fingertips?
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah, and I suppose just to add on that, and while all the comments are fantastic, it's just that for advanced property investors, it's that pivot that needs to occur. And it's funny because sometimes advanced property investors, you may have to let go of one or two, which puts you back into the intermediate category, but throw your ego out, because by letting go of that one or two, you're actually going to be able to maybe purchase 4 or 5. Where that debt equity is, where that property's run its course, understanding business plans, looking at the contingent liability of your property. You've got 5 roofs, 6 roofs, you might have stumping issues, repairs and maintenance issues. I can tell you now, I've had to replace roofs before and no one paid me more money for my property because I put a brand new roof on it.
The value didn't shoot up because
it did not shoot up.
No.
All the window sills got changed from timber window sills to aluminium. So you just got to really assess your current portfolio. And I think this is where you and I have had such in-depth conversations about, that the repairs and maintenance bill potential to come with that contingent liability, where the market's moving, how many investors actually came in behind you, and then the pivot starting to occur in of not buying $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 properties, but then buying something more accustomed to that next stage of your journey, that next portfolio that you're building. And again, resonates with what you said earlier of what got me here now won't take me there.
And we just really want to shorten the time frame as well, because you'll get a lot of blue chip diehard investors who are like, yeah, just hold on for 30 years. And it's like, that's great. The market will go through periods where it doesn't do anything. So for us and what we do, and what I know Aaron and Jeremy do, is we identify opportunities and recognize patterns in markets, really take advantage of those opportunities, get in the slipstream. And at this point, when you're an advanced investor, you want to be looking at something that you can add value to, add a dwelling on, and that you're going to sell out of and use a chunky deposit for a quality commercial asset. I'm not talking about a shitty commercial asset that's like, $600K. You want a decent commercial asset to help you, to be able to retire.
Yeah, I look back at a couple of the properties I let go of, and timing was perfect. And I'll use Victoria as an example. From 2012 to 2016-17, Victoria was going bonkers. It actually was the darling of the country, beating New South Wales as far as percentage increase, and neck with median house value was just insane. But buying, Corio and Norlane, so anyone who knows Geelong, Corio and Norlane, really low socioeconomic areas, and I bought these things for $180,000 and $200,000 back in 2012. Sold in 2016, they doubled. They went up to about $450,000, $480,000 and sold, which was unreal. Between 2016, 2017, and say up to about 2023, 24, the prices did not move. That I could know the properties that I sold, the repairs and maintenance bill only would have went up. But coming back into that market now, where it will have its second cycle, I made so much money by selling those properties at that time, investing that in other areas. I can come back into those areas and be ready for that next cycle, which means that I had my money moving at all particular times. And that's what advanced investors will do. They're not afraid, as I mentioned, to go backwards, to advance and substantially go more forwards. And it goes back to strategic property purchases and, you know, buying different assets for different styles or different times compared to where your money is. You know, if you're earning more, you've got capacity to borrow more, you've got to start looking at properties where you're not dealing with, say, all the mums and dads and beginners who might be overpaying or a really good property for them to enter into. Once you get in that top sector, the buying pool reduces.
Yeah.
The emotion on that property potentially reduces as well. And everybody looks at it through the same lens.
Numbers.
And I know that you're starting to do that quite a lot with a lot of the advanced investors you work with, because I manage them as clients. And just to see how you're changing that, that's important. That's going to take them from having 7, 8 properties to now 16.
And that's what I think as well. Like, you can never marry yourself to one strategy. I think you have to be really adaptable as an investor and buy properties that are elastic, properties that can really like kind of survive any sort of economic turbulence and that are going to afford you peace of mind, so you can keep pushing personally and with your business and with your just your happiness as a family. I think that as an advanced investor, you need to see the whole as Aaron said, the beautiful country we live in. There's so much opportunity out there. You just have to get the right advice. And Aaron, what are you like investing in now? Has your investing philosophy changed over the last few years?
Absolutely. I think for us, rent vesting served a time and a purpose in our journey. Like you said, 20s and 30s, for example. Then we get to the stage that we have a family and we valued stability and security, which meant we bought our own home. And then we get to this next phase of going, okay, now we've got equity, we'll go again. And then you have being self-employed. We went and bought a commercial property, for example, for our business. And there's these different ebbs and flows in your journey to go, mate, we've got equity. Now, how do we really diligent about pulling it out? Okay, the business is making money. How do we push profit through there, for example? But we have a core, a foundation is a good batch of resi properties, just locked and loaded, nothing to do. They just tick away. And then we will revisit and go, okay, which ones do we need to sell? Which markets are ripe to exit? And then move into that next phase. And, we'll do a splitter block, for example. I get excited by the velocity of money to move into like these development type deals as well. I think if you said maybe go back 8 years or 10 years ago, it's like that would have been way too high risk. And in fact, my investment vehicle was the business. Now what I'm doing is taking the business and turning that into the way that we can invest for the future as well. And I think when I start to buy in pairs, it's going, okay, you can buy a really good capital growth property, for example, and then you might buy a commercial. You might buy something that offsets that as well, a bit of the risk. And then we start to move into Jeremy's point earlier. Okay, which properties are in trust, which are in super funds, and then you're building one at a time. But I think the other part here is how we're investing. Having a wife, we need a lot of alignment. Mm-hmm. And I think when we get to this advanced strategy, not every idea is a good idea. A little bit more to lose time in our lives. Okay, we're renovating a property, our home. That takes a huge amount of bandwidth. That takes us probably out of the market. We've had a commercial property for 2 years that needed development to get us to the point we could move our business in there. That took us out of the market for some time. So to understand what season you're in, like when we had our 2 little babies, that wasn't the season to be investing hammer and tong. Like we just couldn't, man. Family came first. Until they're like 3, mate, you're just in survival mode, right? That phase. You're nodding.
Like 100%. We all have kids and we all have a PPOR. And this is what I want to get out there as well, because rent vesting is being rammed down everybody's throat as the only way to move forward. And like, you can't buy a feeling and the stability of what you're giving your family. And, as you said, it's for a season. Rent vesting in your 20s, producer Lachlan, rent vesting in your 20s, that's the season for rent vesting. Okay, so there's going to be a time where you're going to want that community. You're going to want to live where your kids go to school. You want to put down
roots and not have to worry about when we get kicked out, mate. Okay, so rent investing, we're on the South Coast. I look all the time. Where could we go and live in our area? There's lack of stability. what am I going to do? Like, they jack up the rents every 12 months. What we're going to do is just keep moving houses. And then, they've got the kids set at school. They've got their friends. It starts to be not about me or Bernie anymore. It starts to be our family. But now what we're trying to do is build intergenerational wealth through property. 2 small girls, at some point, they're going to ask me for well over $500,000 to go and buy their first property, right? So what we're doing now is from the moment they're born, we put a little bit of cash. Not a lot, $100 a week. I'm surprised at how much $100 a week at 7 and 5, how much money they've actually got saved in their bank account.
How much is in there?
I think they get money from grandparents and family for they're upwards of $30,000-$40,000 in their bank accounts.
That's so good.
And it's like, we don't touch that. It's their money. But I know if anything happens, they got a leg up to get into the property market if we don't decide to go and buy something for them before that. Yeah, because we know savings will diminish over time. But right now, we said we're going to get to a point where it's like minimum $50,000 each. Great, we won't go and buy a property for them, for example. I might pay down my mortgage with their money as well. I don't know. We'll see about that.
See if they clean their room.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like there's just been that consistency. So I think for us, we have gone through, to answer your question, we've gone through a few iterations in our journey. There's seasons in life. Our girls are 7 and 5. We are in a different phase. I call it 40s to 50s. This is the decade of growth. This is the time to go hard because we've set ourselves up. Incomes are on the way up. Stability and security is there. We've got a good base to work with. Now let's go absolutely hard. And then when we get to our 50s, we can revisit the strategy.
Well, I was just going to, that's where it's so crucial for everyone hearing this. I get to see so many people from a different range of ages, and as you do as well, and see the inner workings of numbers.
Bro, we get the best in the house.
40, we are so blessed because we see just not
get to see
where
the
they're
mistakes.
we see everything.
Yeah.
45 is this sweet time in your life where maturity, your income, believe it or not, is at its peak. Because once you get to 55, no employer wants a 55-year-old. I'm sorry for all the 55-year-olds out there, but that's when you've got to start to have your transition into your own business and other things as well.
They don't want to work as hard as well, Jeremy. Like
the body is,
motivation's not there,
imagine the
right?
tradies or the white collar. At that point, they don't want to go that hard because they've probably missed the kids around, the travel, whatever it's going to be. And they go, man, I don't want to be this intense.
So start your business, hopefully, ideally before then, but 45 is your peak.
Yeah.
That is where between the ages of 45 and 55, and again, for anyone who might be sitting in a beginner or advanced or immediate, that is your time to explode. Maturity, income's at its highest point. You may have saved up a bit of capital. You may have bought a couple of properties. That decade will set you up for your whole retirement. Again, having the right people around you.
And your family as well, not just you.
Yeah, these 4 pillars you've always got to have in the back of your mind. And ideally, by the time you retire, these 4 pillars are all healthy. One is your own home. You do want to have your own home. You don't want to be renting at the age of 70. I can tell you that now. You do want a healthy superannuation fund. And that just doesn't come at the age of 60 when you start doing it. That's throughout your entire career. You do want to have some equities, a bit of diversity. You do want to have your investment properties because that's a safe way for many people in Australia to leverage. You can leverage equities as well. You just got to ride the wave and not look at the ticker codes every 10 seconds. I haven't got a personality to have leverage in equities because I will be looking at that ticker code every 10 seconds. Where properties, it does move like that every day, but because we just don't have all that data in front of us to see a daily movement, we tend not to worry and we look at property from a long-term lens. So those 4 pillars are the things that you want to make sure that you've got moving. Advanced investors will generally be in that 40-45 bracket, and that's where they go hard. And you're really doing it from a maturity perspective as well. You're making good decisions, and you're buying the right type of properties for your age bracket as well. You're not going to be out and going buying something which may need a truckload of work and trying to do it yourself. You may buy something that's palatable, or you'll get the right people to do that work for you.
Question for you, Dawn. How long have you been running your business for now?
3 years.
3 years, right? Jeremy?
In 10 years in practice, yeah.
There you go, right?
You?
We're 10 this year as well. And it's almost like that exponential. Like the first 3 years,
Hardest.
it's hard. You're in the wilderness, and then it just turns a corner, and it's like it shoots up, and life got a lot.
And
easier.
that's property as well. The first
Spot on.
3-4 properties, it's excruciating because you're having to save
So
for the
hard.
deposit
Yes,
and
scraping the barrel.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
Stuff is going wrong.
once that denominator's there, and it just you mentioned it before, 4 turns to 8 pretty quickly.
Yeah,
People listening to this won't believe it, but 8 turns to 16.
am I correct?
They're like gremlins.
It's
Just
just
double. I just keep coming back to it. You can double portfolios because at that point, 4's got equity to strip. You got borrowing capacity that's probably gone up.
Your rents have gone up on
rents
all
have
your
gone up.
earlier
Your
assets.
income's gone up. We've been through the last 5 years has been the biggest wage increase, especially in the private sector and public sector as well, ever recorded. More than what it was back in the 80s when people were getting pay rises every 2 and 3 months. So this is not going to be where you are today is not going to be like this forever. Wages will increase. Your debt will kind of stay where it is until you release equity, of course. So that means your borrowing capacity is only going to increase year by year. Windows of opportunity is the best thing, and you nailed it right on the head. You know, that window closed when you had your children, that window closed when you're doing renovations and buying the business and doing all these other things. But when those windows open, you go hard.
Make correct.
And advanced investors with the right brokers and buyers, agents, accountants and solicitors, all the professionals around you, having access to all the various different banks and lending policies and private bankers, business bankers, different style of strategies of properties, whatever you do, when that window opens, go hell for leather because it will close.
When we tell people you can go buy 4 properties, we've done the roadmap. You can go buy 4 this year. Mate, some people don't do 4. We're talking about advanced strategies. Some people don't do 4 in their lifetime. And we can do it in 12 months. Sometimes they freak out over this. So sometimes we've got to be very careful about how we present a strategy going, actually, man, you got the borrowing capacity going by 6. And they freak out. I was like, all right, cool. I think you can comprehend 3, and then we'll get past that, into that next 3. And it's almost like it's too good to be true a little bit. And then Dawn just goes, yeah, mate, I can get you buying in the market in like a month's time or, within 1 to 2 months. Whereas other people only got to wait within, a buyer's agency queue for another 6 months. And it's like they've lost that momentum or they've missed the market.
It's an opportunity cost. And
Correct.
it might be priced
And
out.
6
Mate,
months
correct.
now.
And
It's just crazy.
we love momentum.
Yeah.
We love speed. Like we don't love
We're all
following
action
up clients.
takers.
Correct. The property market rewards action takers, decision makers. So like attracts like. And what we're trying to say here is the ones that probably get to this advanced level have simply put one foot in front of the other. Bang, done. Next one, bang, done. And it's a momentum. When I say you're going to buy 3 in this year, that's 1 every 4 months. It's not really a lot. But for some people, it can feel intimidating. And I think to get to that level of being advanced, you've got to get past this feeling and go, I have to sit back, relinquish some control with the team and go, you run point with it. Yes, I've got a whole bucket load of paperwork to get done at any given point, but you just keep building this team around you to go, this team is now elite level. And when you want to play elite level sport, you need to do elite level things.
Yep.
100%. And I would prefer and encourage people to have hard conversations with their partners in their late 30s, early 40s, rather than we had a client come to us and still feel so bad for them. They're both 48, 49. They see all their friends, having financial freedom, and they're on, and this is crazy to think in Australia, they're on 300k gross income a year as a family, but they have a $1.2 million mortgage at their age. And it's, in a really high socioeconomic pocket of Sydney, and they have strata. So they are week to week, no savings, on 300k.
Yeah, see, that's where I would argue to say that maybe rent investment is not a bad idea in that particular case, only because of you just got to weigh up. And I'll use Double Bay as an example. Now, everyone listening, Double Bay, eastern suburbs, premier suburb, probably in the top 5 suburbs in all of the country. Average price point there would be 10 million plus. To rent that would be 4 or 5 grand a week. To have a mortgage on that at an 80% loan would be, say, maybe 10, 15,000 a week. Now, that's where rent investment would be worthwhile because you can redirect a lot of that allocation of funds into other assets that may have good income generation long term. It's all well and good to have a $15 million home completely paid off. It might grow and have tax-free money, but in the end, you might be attached to that home and you can't eat it. Yes, you can reverse mortgage it and all those other things, but it's what you've potentially lost in the process of getting there. Saying that, if you live in areas where the mortgage repayments versus the rent repayments are very par, you buy a home. I know where I am in the southwestern suburbs of Sydney, you live there because the rent payments and mortgage repayments are on par for most cases.
But this is the thing. They had bought their home and the rent payments are on par with owning in this suburb in Sydney. And they are really stuck because their kids go to school locally.
I was going to say at 300K, I can tell you exactly what's going on below the surface.
It's a cost spending issue.
Because they got
their
kids in private school.
Yeah.
Kids in private school.
Spending issue.
And then if you have your kids in private school, you just don't rock up. I've got a Mazda 3. You don't rock up in a Mazda 3. You rock up in a European car.
Right, okay.
And because you're at private school, that you go to Italy or Europe for holidays, you don't go to the Gold Coast.
But they can't because they're crippled by the mortgage.
Yeah, but they'll do it because they'll do a bloody credit card.
Yeah.
They'll take the holidays on the credit. I'm telling you, you just can't help yourself. At 300K,
earn more, spend more.
There's so many people living like that though.
You're not buying clothes from, I don't know, Uniqlo. You're buying clothes from Polo. Like this, you can see it happen all the time. You can't help yourself.
My friends will laugh because I still run around in 10-year-old Thailand shorts that I probably bought for
right.
$6.
Best thing.
But I love
That's what I call that stealthy wealthy, man.
Yeah.
The people that don't need a flex are the ones that are comfortable with their own skin.
Yeah.
They don't need to prove it's new money. Jeremy, you said you live in southwestern Sydney. Bro, I reckon without even knowing your portfolio, I reckon you could sell your portfolio and you could live in a really, really good blue chip area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my wealthiest clients, I'm not talking people that with 5, 6, I'm talking people that are worth 50 million plus. And one in particular still comes to the office in a 2003 model Toyota Yaris. I call him, now I have a laugh with him. I do call him one of the biggest tired asses I've ever met. And his thing is, Jeremy, I'm quite happy. I don't need those things.
Yeah.
I don't have the worry about looking in my bank account, and I'm happy with what I got. So that contentness is there, but he's still very, very business minded. He looks for things to create more wealth and more value. So that mindset is important, and he doesn't have the pressures of having to keep up with society and those social pressures of it.
Because if people are seeking validation, I think they can get themselves into a lot of trouble by buying a PPOR that they really can't afford to try and fund a lifestyle, and then they're going to be unhappy in their own household. I think people have lost a desire to chase being content. They want to keep reaching for more and more and more. But whatever happened to yes, it's great to have freedom of time and chase that, but you also need to have purpose in your life. And it's all not just all about I own this house and I own this and I own that. What we're talking about is buying freedom of time and, doing that through property.
And that's a big risk for advanced property investors. They just get a little bit of taste of, I've made it. Yeah. There's still a lot more to go. And then all of a sudden this lifestyle kicks in and they do want the
money.
$3 million home.
The handbags, I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? It's I couldn't fathom. And if you're out there and you love handbags, good on you. I could not fathom spending a few grand on a handbag. I don't even have a handbag. Do you know what I mean? I think I had a Woolworths bag that I brought in my suitcase that I still carry stuff in.
But do you know what happens here, Dawn, is you get to a point financially where I think when you go, I can buy it, but I'm choosing not to, that's the flex.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So this guy that could, load it, he could go and buy any car. And absolutely. I think as my income has increased, Matt, keeping the ego in check is hard. I won't lie about it. I drive the worst car. I drive the worst car in the whole team. Now, naturally, I probably earn the most because I run the business, right?
But you could buy a Ferrari tomorrow.
And I could lease it. You work it out. The repayments on a Ferrari would probably be about maybe 15 grand a month.
What's the insurance on a Ferrari?
At that point, who cares, right?
Yeah, you're spending 15 grand a month.
The insurance becomes irrelevant because I'm driving the Ferrari. Just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? And to battle the ego when a lot of my my cohorts in my industry at this stage are rocking up in nice cars and I'm not, there is a tinge, there's an element, you can't help, it's human nature. Man, what am I doing? But you got to tell yourself, I've got to do uncommon things to get uncommon results. And it's all well and good to have a bloody Goggins quote or a Warren Buffett quote, but to actually do it and have strength in character to do it, that's where I think where I'm going with this point is we'll all agree is having and marrying well or having the right partner in your life is
100%.
That
the
is, oh, man.
game changer. When
100%.
Bernadette, if I came home with a phrase, like, where are you going to put these kids? The 2 kids.
Mate.
Take your Ferrari and take it somewhere else because practically this makes no sense.
Yeah.
And so having an amazing partner that you're aligned with financially, I'd say the clients that don't get to the level that they should financially haven't got alignment with their partner.
And
I agree.
And seeing it in my space, and I did something not long ago about divorce being the biggest wealth killer. It's a shame because when I do see people reach that 7, 8, 9, 10 properties, one person in the relationship still gung-ho and the other one wants to take a bit of a step back. And
it's win-lose.
And I haven't got, data internally to back these numbers up. I'm just going from my feel, but it's more than 50% of those clients who have got and built a bit of wealth together, they separate. And we can only look at some of the wealthiest people in the world. Jeff Bezos recently divorced and separated. They're billionaires, multi-billionaires. What worries in life do they have? Bill Gates and his wife, billionaires. So it's keeping that nucleus, that family nucleus still in check, as you both have mentioned.
Yeah, well, because money only solves money problems. If you're still like a broken person and you haven't like fixed, if you're out there seeking validation or seeking other stuff, money is only going to amplify how much of a dickhead you are. Like that you need to fix it. So
and people are probably going, well, what's this all got to do with advanced investors?
Well, it is. It's trying to help you keep your money, guys.
It's the I think now at this stage we're talking about the psychology of investing, because at this point everything you've done has worked. You've got the equity strips, you've gone and bought, you've been tax efficient, you've bought in great locations, you've built a great team. So you've done all those foundations very well. Making money is one part, keeping money is the next part.
Absolutely.
Managing money is another part. And these are all new skills that when you get to advanced investing, who are you going to talk to about this? Because your mates aren't there. Your family you can't disclose it to your broader family about, man, I've got 10 properties. I'm just curious, what do I do now? Great way to make enemies, right? And then you then have to go and pound the pavement to find professionals like this that can deal with these level of like problems. These are challenges. And so how do you entrust a team to go, no judgment, and this team then go, hey mate, you're a bigger client than I can handle, because we've got to be able to then, no, I can navigate your problems when you've got a 10 plus property portfolio, or you've been burnt by a BA, or they just can't understand that next level of strategy, for example, or they've outgrown the account, like they're that accountant's biggest client. So you've got to be able to still be a small fish in a big pond, and that's very hard when you
and
want to be the big
learning
dog.
and always learning.
Absolutely.
And I think I can speak for all of us. I would say that like both you guys as well have such an abundant mindset, and you're always learning and open to learning different things, because otherwise you're going to get stuck. And even if you're out there buying properties that have gotten you to the point you are, I want you to ask your buyer's agent, are you buying for me in this location because it suits me in my brief, or are you buying here because it's easy for your business to buy here en masse? And I would encourage you to ask that question, because if in the service-based industry, we want you guys all to be protected, and nobody's perfect. There's amazing buyer's agents out there, amazing brokers and accountants. Like, there's no one-stop shop for everybody. But I want you guys to start asking hard questions. And you might be confused if you aren't at the advanced investor stage going, why are they talking about like your partner? And once you get to that point, you will understand how critical it is. And Jeremy knows Melissa and Aaron and his team. Like, Melissa is really the brains of Future Proof. She is the reins of Future Proof. And Jeremy knows, how would you describe Melissa?
You are definitely the locomotive, the train, but she's the tracks, she's the conductor.
And the brakes.
And you need that you are the engine, right? You're pushing things forward, and that's how you've been able to do so well. But she's just that person who slow it down. Let's make sure we actually know what we're doing before we go into it, and that's
imagine
important.
you have 2 dawns. You need yin and yang energy.
No, you can't have it.
You have 2 dawns. Like, it's a bloody train wreck. Every idea is a good idea. Let's go and buy that property.
We would have the fast
you
rail.
couldn't have 2 Aarons either.
Oh, but
you could 2 Jeremys.
Mate, great. We always joke, I'd run this business into the ground if it was just me.
We would 100%.
I'd be bloody debt it up. Every property be 150% debt, all right? Because I want to keep going and going. And so you need someone to temper that. And I think sometimes what happens is if you don't acknowledge that someone's your yin to your yang, you think they're being a handbrake. And we talked about like the divorce, and that's where resentment starts to set in, and it festers, like they're holding me back. No. You've spent hours listening to Dawn. You spent hours listening to Jeremy, and then suddenly just come home and go, right, we're going to Dawn, we're going to Jeremy, we're going to Aaron. And it's like, and the other partner's going, whoa, who are all these people like that you've just met and spending all this time on YouTube with? You got to take them on the journey.
Absolutely.
You've got to do this together. Because if you want to use their money for borrowing capacity, mate, we always be same team.
That's it.
When the kids are driving us nuts, it's like, hey man, same team? Like, yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to touch on something you said because it resonated with me quite a bit. You said, is your buyer's agent buying for you in an area because it's easy for their business and because they know the agents in that space? And I wanted to give an example of and pull that apart of what you mean. Like Dawn, if she was buying for me, and she presented me something we talk about, we'll use Victoria. So again, Norlane, an area where the price point sits at.
Now it's like 600 or 550, probably still 580.
Okay, and you could do probably some in some of those blocks there, houses at the back. And then we go to the other side of the peninsula. We talk about something like Chelsea. Price point sits at
1.4, 1.5.
And still have lots of development potential there on some of these blocks, which are over 1,000 square meters.
Wow.
Now, they're two very different price points. Probably, I would say 99.99% of buyers agents are probably not buying in Chelsea, would you say?
I agree, they're not.
And probably 50% of buyers agents at the moment it's too high. Maybe 30% of buyers agents might be buying in Geelong. Nothing wrong. Both suburbs ready, primed for growth or opportunity. And Chelsea at one stage there, we were joking, it was one of the areas that probably had lost $1 million, clawed huge amounts of it back and probably going to go quite stronger. But for someone in my position, advanced a property investor, would you be recommending me Norlane or Chelsea?
Absolutely. And we haven't actually bought anywhere in Norlane because our style of investing is to protect people's bandwidth. So it's very different. We just want to protect investors because for you to keep growing your portfolio, you can't have constant calls that the tenants are shit or that, your fibre wall has fallen down or because
gas heater needs to be serviced for the 13th time.
We're seeing huge opportunity, and we're very open here on the Future Proof Property Podcast, as you know. But one of our clients recently, we bought them a ripper property in Geelong West, 440,000. Right? Yes, it's a unit. The houses in the area are 1.3 million.
Wow, big
This is a 2-bedroom unit, brick. Will have owner occupier appeal, downsizer appeal. And he's not going to have any stress. There's no body corporate on it. And the yield is 5%. So these are the kind of assets I want people to look at. And this is where you need to open up your mind as well in 2026. We've seen the flight to affordability of regional markets. Now we're going to start to see the flight to affordability towards asset types. It's just classic market cycles paired with the credit cycle that we're entering into.
Mm-hmm. You'd lose some people when you said apartment.
I'm not saying apartment. I'm saying unit. Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
Like you'd lose some people when you said, "Oh, we're buying a unit."
Yeah.
Or an apartment, right? Because some people go, "No, it has to be a house," for example. And that's where investors get stuck in that intermediate versus advanced. They become a little bit agnostic to what's the property or where's it located or the type, and they're going, "Show me the numbers and show me this makes sense," and I have to again relinquish some control to go, "Mate, you're the expert here. If you say the unit sub 500 is the way to go, a 5% yield, you don't get that in a freestanding house.
In a really high socioeconomic pocket with scarcity. I would buy 10 of them.
I always tell people about the locker out near the Opera House. So if anyone ever gets a chance to visit the Opera House, there's these units which sit in line with the Opera House, and they came on the market back in, I'm going to say the early 2000s, and they were selling at that stage from anywhere between $800 to $1.92 million. And you had people like Alan Jones bought in there, some really big socialites. The cheapest one there probably sits at around about $4 or $5 million. It's 5x'd in 20 years or 25 years. A unit, an apartment with strata, the rental yield's probably 1% gross rental yield, but that's a really good example of where units can fit with inside your portfolio because it has maybe a lifestyle appeal. And you go anywhere along the eastern seaboard in some of the best areas of the country, your broad beaches or your eastern suburbs, you could be your Maroubras or your Coogis. This stuff here just kills it. But if you're buying in the middle of Melbourne CBD with 5 other buildings being built at the same time, well, then the economics of that may present itself not to be useful.
It's a nuance when you're buying asset types like that. But I think the main takeaway we want for people is to be open-minded and to really figure out what kind of an investor you are and what sort of an investor your household is. Do older houses like scare you? That's fine. You can find like something, lower maintenance that is still high growth. You guys as a family and even with yourself, I would encourage you to really write down your values. And this is what nobody talks about. So like what's really important to you in life? Like what makes you really content? And for us, we figured out along our journey, we thought it was going to be like flashy holidays and flash resorts. We went to some resort in Fiji and we were there and there was people there from Vaucluse and, they had they were worth like $100 million. And like, we got on great with them, chatting away, talking away, whatever. But we realized we're just as happy in a bloody Big Four caravan park. And for me, and so that's where we're going this year. We're not going back to Fiji. We actually had a holiday booked back to Fiji, right? Because back to this resort, whatever, and we cancelled it. And we said, no, we're just going off to Queensland, off to caravan parks. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. We tried it, we did it, and we're like, I don't feel any different. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It 100% makes sense. I covered this recently in one of the episodes that I've done. Which was, you think when you get to that stage this is what you do at that income level, or this is our next, hey mate, our life has improved, therefore we do that, right? Now we did the Disneyland with the kids, right? In Hong Kong. We recently went camping down the coast. Which holiday did they say was better?
Guarantee the camping.
The camping.
The camping.
Putting
$80 a night or something ridiculous.
Here.
No, we trudged them all the way, buddy, across to Hong Kong, then not even to America. Now, you do that because you want to have one experience as two, hey, look, we've got some opportunity to make our lives incredibly better. But sometimes simplicity is the way forward. And
because it's complicated when you're in that investment stage.
Correct.
It's heavily complicated.
Correct. And we're trying to say, how do we keep it simple? How do you keep it really, really simple? Enjoy the journey. And mate, I guarantee you come out of that Fiji, everyone's sizing everyone up, for example, is a bit of a flex. Whereas you go to the campsite, I don't experience this recently, where no one cares. Same money, no money, whatever it's, we're just giving our kids a better life, a great experience, a chance to actually relax. Yeah. And I think that's like when we get to this income band, we have to be doing this, or we have to be acting a certain way. No. That's why property investing is the wealth that people cannot see until you actually disclose it. No one knows how big your portfolio is. So you can actually fly under the radar and quietly accumulate a really good portfolio that in 15 years time, people are like, Jeremy, how'd you do this? You're like, man, I stayed the course for 15 years. I bought these unsexy properties in, areas that 15 years ago, no one was buying in, and you just had to stay the course. And I think that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people is when you get, so the investor example there is, mate, now I have to go on, that's what we said before, I have to go into splitter blocks, or I have to go and buy an Airbnb in Coogee because the rents are great. And just to say that you got that, just to say we've gone to that, U-Butte resort in Fiji, or we've had to say we're going to Disneyland, it's like, no, you don't have to do anything. Stay the course, quietly go about your business. Your inner sanctum becomes even smaller. And I think being, I'll call it, that stealthy, wealthy model, that's where people are going to thrive.
And the really interesting thing, talking about advanced investors, these people that we met in these resorts in Fiji, they were at that point where all they did was they kept upgrading their PPOR. That's where their store of wealth was, and they had commercial assets. That's all they had, because they had the capital for the commercial assets. They would upgrade their PPOR, maybe sell it with a DA, and keep upgrading. This is what the ultra wealthy do, right? You see
your
it?
money in the best investment, at the best period of time for what you're aiming to achieve. And capital growth will get you grow your wealth, and then cash flow keeps your wealth. And that's what I always try to tell people. When you've got a good income, that cash cow, whether it's a business or your wage, utilize leverage, build your wealth. At a certain period of time, it does need to be converted to cash flow because the balance sheet can't be eaten in most circumstances. And that's where then cash flow keeps you wealthy. So you're an advanced investor. You've got to make sure you're investing at the right time in the right assets for what you're doing, as you do for a lot of your clients buying various properties all over the country. And then you're not afraid, to tell people hey, this is a time where we do now start to liquidate, and you're now on your next journey and you've done your bit. You give them a big hug and a big kiss and said, now you're on your way. I've done my side to get you where you need to be. And that's what a good professional should be doing for you. Getting you to a certain position and giving you a hug and a kiss, and then now putting you on your next journey.
Because it's not about us, it's about our clients. And I think somewhere along the way people lost sight of that. It's all about our clients.
Yep.
It's not we're not the hero of this story. The clients are, who are out there taking action every single day.
All professionals, Aaron, I know how excited you would get when someone pays off their home.
Oh, dude,
to the detriment of your own pocket. In
literally got goosebumps.
Why would I care when that was our mission? Like, what am I going to do? Like the trail or the commission on that is
your
nothing.
book.
I've had brokers. I've literally been in joint meetings and argued with brokers when they said, "Oh, we don't think the client should pay off their own home. They should just continue to keep borrowing or keep." What are you talking about?
Someone said to me it wasn't good business sense that I was telling people to pay off their own homes, and I said, "But that's our purpose."
Show me someone that's telling people, particularly in broker land. Ask the question, how are you going to get out of this debt? It's one of the questions we ask, mate. How on earth are you going to get out of this 30-year mortgage? What are you going to do? Just go to work for Pete, try and pay off this giant behemoth mortgage you're lugging around your back? We covered this. Just go and buy 2 properties. Hold it for 8 years. Sell them off. Debt-free within 10.
Cheery.
Mate, mission accomplished. And then you go into the next phase of investing.
Very dangerous person with no non-deductible debt. When you've got no non-deductible debt, you are a dangerous person to the investment space, which is brilliant. I say that as a positive, not as a negative.
And you have bandwidth to think because you don't have that debt anchor. You could exponentially increase your income. There's so much you can do.
Just ask someone, how on earth are you going to get out of this 30-year mortgage? And you just hear that it just goes silent.
Yeah.
And I feel for people that just, mate, I don't know, I'm just going to have to go to work for 30 odd years, or then we're going to downsize. And then I'm like, okay, I need to meet you where you are. And there's no donking you on the head and saying you're wrong. It's just to go, we need to find a way to get out of this debt, because there's no way I'm working for 30 years. I could do a 10-year mortgage, and that's our game plan. They'd be debt-free before 10 years. And then we're showing people this is the way to do it. There's a blueprint to follow. There's a model
but have the restraint not to upgrade your PPOR when you pay it off. And this is what I really want to drill home to you guys.
We've got to get Nana on the podcast.
Nana, my Nana, guys, she is just the best. She will say to you what was wrong with the other house. And she's not wrong. And I think on that note, this has been an epic series with these 2 gentlemen. Go back and listen to these episodes multiple times. There is so much gold in these episodes that you can learn. You can fast track yourself towards, getting you and your family future-proof. So from the bottom of my heart, I just really want to thank Jeremy and Aaron. And let's get some more of you future-proof. If you've enjoyed this series, let us know. Follow the guys on socials. Let us know in the comments what you're thinking, and if you'd like to see some more of these episodes. Until next week, let's get some more of you future-proof. And just a reminder, guys, this podcast is for general information only and reflects the personal views of the hosts and guests. Any discussion of property markets, regions, or prices is speculative and not financial, legal, or investment advice. Property markets can change, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Always do your own research and seek advice from a qualified professional before making any property decisions.